Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your smooth and easy listening Bible study. How about that? This week we're looking at Psalm 51, looking at it all week long, and we're going to talk about sin. No, actually, we're not going to talk about sin. We're going to talk about what to do when we sin. You don't need a primer on sin, because everybody under the sound of my voice has a master's degree in sin. You don't need anybody to tell you how to do it. What you need to know is the remedy for it, don't you? Well, David gives us that, because what we have in Psalm 51 is a primer on repentance and the wonderful effects that repentance has on the life. All right, so we're looking at that this week, and we're going to be talking about David's sin. Well, we just might as well start right here in the introduction of Psalm 51. It's of the choir master, a psalm of David, when Nathan the prophet came to him when he came to Bathsheba, or after he came to Bathsheba. So we know that story. If you don't know that story, go back into 2 Samuel and read up on David's sin with Bathsheba, and you'll find it there. And it's a very instructive story, and you'll see what happened with him. He allowed his lust to get out of control. He dwelled on it. He allowed it to take him captive, and he committed an act of sin. And because of that, he killed a man over this woman, Bathsheba. So he was an adulterer in this event, and he was a murderer in this event. He conspired with other men to see a man's life lost. There's a lot here that David did wrong. We're not going to talk about all of that. I'll let you go back and read that for yourself. But look at verses 1 through 4, and we're going to find out today, beginning today, what happens after sin. Are you convicted by that sin? You want to know what to do about it? Let me read for you the first 4 verses of Psalm 51. Have mercy upon me, O God, according to thy loving kindness. According unto the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgression, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee, thee only, have I sinned, and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mayest be justified when thou speakest, and be clear when thou judgest. All right, now those are the first 4 verses here in Psalm 51. And what does he say? He says here, have mercy. So the very first thing out of the box is mercy, because mercy is the great remedy for your sin problem. God's mercy. Not what you do, but what he has done. His mercy. He extends mercy to you who have sinned. And David knew that. And so the very first thing he does is ask for mercy. Not because he deserves it, not because he doesn't. What he's done, weighed in the scales of justice, condemns him. So he needs mercy, not justice. So he says, have mercy upon me according to your loving kindness. So the loving kindness of God instructs the mercy of God and directs it towards the sinner. Now, this idea of washing and cleansing is all over this, I guess, the first 3 quarters of this psalm. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. Washing and cleansing, we'll find it again in verse 7, verse 10, verse 7, verse 10. It's here in verse 2. Seems like I'm missing a verse. But anyway, we'll find it. It's all over the place. He says, I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Are you seeing a pattern here? David says, have mercy upon me, and my iniquity, my sin, my transgression, my sin is ever before me. And then he says, against thee, and thee only have I sinned. Well, he sinned against Bathsheba by killing her husband. He killed Uriah. He sinned against himself with adultery. But no, all of these sins really are against the Lord, against thee, because he gave us the commandments. He's given us the walk of holiness, and when we abandon it, we sin against Him. And all sin is an abandonment of God's commands. I have sinned against thee, and done that is evil in thy sight, that thou mayest be justified. Now, He is justified when He speaks, and clear when He judges, but we're not asking Him to judge, are we? No, we're asking Him to have mercy. So the first step in treating sin is to call on the mercy of God and to acknowledge that it's my sin that I'm asking mercy for. Join me again tomorrow. We'll pick up here in verse 51, beginning in verse 5, on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.